This is me, Kingsley Obon, the host and moderator again of the Disability Roundtable. Coming back again. This is our second week, and I'm going to be doing topics today, like different topics dealing with disability, like we discussed last week. This week's topic comes to mind. It's going to be about basically how able-bodied individuals see people with disabilities, and the other topic is going to be, as a person with a disability, some of the mobility issues we have getting around. So it might be, 2 topics versus 3 compared to last time, but I think these are all important, so they just came to mind, and I felt that I want to discuss it on this week's Disability Roundtable and get everybody's opinion. So basically, this is going to be, last week I had, some contributors on the show. This week it's more going to be me just giving my take on some things that I've grown up with, and as being a disabled individual, African American, things that I've encountered, and I'm sure it's probably happened to other disabled individuals, whether you got cerebral palsy or any kind of disability. But more so, since I have CP, I wanted to talk about some of the things that instances that come to mind that I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on. Let me know what you think about it. So the first one, like I said, is able-bodied individuals and people, and how they see people with disabilities. Particularly, what I wanted to talk about is how they view us as in terms of valuing our time and seeing us as that we have things. So I have a few examples that I wanted to give just from my personal experience. And this happened, it's really fresh. It happened a couple of weeks ago. So I was helping a friend of mine, and she was doing Uber. Not going to mention any names, but if I do, then oh well. But yeah, so we were doing Uber, and she had just started doing it, and so she wasn't really familiar with it. And then she asked me if I would like to go, roll around her and help her do, Uber Eats runs. And at first I said, okay, might be kind of cool. Thinking that usually, because I have other friends that do Uber Eats, and you usually do it maybe 2-3 hours at the most, maybe 4 if it's busy. But this individual friend of mine, was like, she was brand new, and she's doing it for like 6-8 hours. And then, so she thought it was cool to come and pick me up, myself, and another friend of mine that also has cerebral palsy, Jetarian, and we were driving around. First we do like 4 hours, and then we probably, go grab something to eat, and then we do like another 4 hours. So we're doing like 8-hour runs. And it was okay at first us my friend, our able-bodied friend, started making a habit of like taking advantage of us, and not really seeing us as people that have other things to do, disabled or not, because we all have lives, and I think that everybody's time is valuable. So the thing that kind of got to me, and I just wanted to see if other people have experienced this, is, when you're hanging around disabled people, they sometimes don't view your time or what you do, like I said, it's valuable. So what happened in this situation was we did like it was like a 3 or 4 day kind of thing. The first day was one, like on a Friday, we drove around the first like 4 hours, and then we stopped somewhere, then we did like another 4 hours, and then I was like, man, that was kind of long. And the whole time I'm sort of sitting there, and usually if I'm helping a friend out, and my other friends, because I have other able-bodied friends, they usually say, hey, can you help me out with this? And they compensate, like as a good friend, you're supposed to look out for your friends. That's just what, we consider being a good friend and looking out for your people. I'll ask them if they, want a drink, or get them something off the dollar menu, or go get some snacks for them from Dollar General, or the 99-cent store just to make sure they're good. So we did it the first time. A friend of mine, she never, even I was riding around with her, she had me hold her food. I'm actually handing the food to the people that ordered from Uber Eats, and did this the first time. Like I said, was the very first time. I'm sorry, I think it was 6 hours. Then the other day, then the next day, I did it again. I did it it's been 3 days straight. Then the other day was another 8 hours, and then another 8 hours after that. On all three of these times that I did Uber Eats, I'm thinking my friend, and I've known her for 2.5 years, she's going to, look out and be like, oh, well, thank you for coming with me to do Uber Eats, and, I'll get you a drink or something, in a minute here, or the next time you come with me, or some food, just to make sure I'm good. So, but that never happened. So, and we're going to in the midnight hours, because if any of you are familiar with how Uber Eats work, Uber, it's usually they got their peak time, and then they got their sort of dead time. Their peak times in the breakfast. The peak time in the morning is usually from 10 to maybe from. No, I'm sorry. From 9 to maybe 11:30, and then lunch is from 12 to 2, and then from 2 to 4 it's dead time, and then it picks up again from 5 to 8 for the dinner time, and then there's some people that like to do the little midnight snack. Those are the people that probably don't get too much exercise and just like to eat really late and just stuff their face. Matter of fact, I actually saw this one. I did a Uber one with a friend of mine, handing food out, and he came to the door, and this dude was rather large, eating food around 2 o'clock in the morning. So just ordering food for 5 in the morning, especially if we're not going to get any exercise. As a fitness buff myself, I definitely don't want to eat food late because it wouldn't digest. But anyway. So I was doing that with her, and I'm going around with my friend and my other friend that's disabled. We're going around from those hours, from morning, afternoon, then the evening, and then we're going midnight hours to deliver food. And not once did my friend that was doing the Uber Eats mention or ask us whether we wanted food. And I just thought that was just kind of weird, and so I didn't want to say anything, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, she'll get it. If you're being a good friend, you should ask your people that are helping you, hey, do you need something? Y'all good? Just being a good person. But unfortunately, that never seemed to happen, and it was when I brought it to my friend's attention, and I was trying to say it jokingly, on the advice of one of my friends, I said, okay, if I'm going to do Uber Eats with you, and I'm not really getting paid for my time, okay, it's cool to hang out. So it's one thing to hang out with somebody, help them with Uber Eats, but usually if you're a good friend, a good person, you'll, like I said, offer them some food, or maybe a drink or something off the dollar menu. It's no sweat off your back, just to make sure that you appreciate them, right? But, this friend didn't want to do any of those things. So at the very minimum, I thought, okay, well, we should at least be having, nice conversation, funny, to make the time go by. But she was so, bad at doing Uber Eats. She didn't know her directions, couldn't find her way around, was getting lost at night, was freaking out. We're going to these apartment complexes that are kind of sketchy, and then one instance, she's delivering food to this apartment complex, and then this guy comes out of his apartment, and she gets scared, and then I happen to be in the front seat, and she's like, "Oh, Kingsley, can I open the door? I'm kind of nervous." So she opens my passenger door, and I'm just sitting there. She's like, "Oh, I just want him to see that I have somebody in the car." Totally disregarding my safety. And then of course, I forgot to mention the safety of her baby that was in the back seat, because we're 2-3 o'clock in the morning and driving around, which is really not safe if you're like a female and you got a baby in the back. So it's like we're kind of in a compromising position. So she had done that like twice, and I'm like, yo, that's like not cool. And so then, like I said, after eventually, like the second time of doing Uber Eats, the third time, me and then my other friend that was in the car, we were like, man, we don't think we want to do this anymore. So after we left my house, and then she did a few Uber runs before we stopped at this barbecue place to go get something to eat. And then me and my friend were like, okay, well, we're not really having fun doing Uber Eats, so she's just sort of, just doing her thing. We're not really having any dope conversation. She don't want to look out for us. She don't want to make sure we have any food. So we're like, what the heck? This is kind of boring. So then I mentioned to her, I'm like, hey, we're finished eating barbecue here. I think I have to go home, and, I got stuff to do. And then she just, like, flippantly said, well, I can't take you home right now. Now, me and my friend are disabled, so we're like in her car, so it's not like we brought our own cars, and this is where I'm talking about, like, how some able-bodied people, not all, but some, see disabled people as their time's not valuable. Because she had made a comment to, like, well, what do you got to do? You ain't got nothing to do anyway. You're just rolling around. So I'm like, well, no, I do have things to do, and I want to go home. And she's like, well, I can't take you home right now because I got to go do Uber. And I was like, yeah, I need to go home. I got stuff to do, and I'm tired. And she's like, well, you can just do stuff on your phone. Or if you want to take a nap or whatever, just take a nap in the back seat. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this is someone I've known for like 2.5, almost 3 years. And I was like, dang, that's like really inconsiderate. Like, why would you be that like rude and not understand that myself and my other friend that's disabled, we both got lives and we got things to do. Now, if she wants to spend 8 hours a day doing Uber Eats, then that's her. But that shouldn't mean that we're, by default, we have to be dragged along with her. We were just trying to be good friends and help out. But since she's not really being considerate of us, we're like, nah, we're done with this. We're going home. So, and then it gets better in a few minutes, people. Even better. So she was like, me and my friend are thinking to ourselves when our other friend, she had went to the restroom, and we're all thinking like, okay, so, like, how do we get out of this? And so we're like, and then my other friend that's disabled, she didn't really want to say anything. So she's like, Kingsley, you go ahead and tell her, like, you want to go home. And then we're both thinking, like, well, damn, if we tell her, she's the type of person that doesn't take, like, when you tell her something, doesn't take it really well. So I'm sure maybe y'all have had a friend that you don't really know how to express what you. Sometimes you try to say what's on your mind, and then you tell that person, and that person, like, you think, is going to understand it, and it totally goes left, and they get, like, really pissed, and then they start, like, freaking out. So she didn't freak out at the barbecue place, but she was just kind of, like, not really understanding and didn't care, and we just thought it was crazy. So then we're basically held hostage in her car, and she's hopping out doing Uber. I'm sitting in the back seat. Now, she's a rather large individual, so my legs are like getting smushed in the back seat. Like, it is extremely painful because she's, like I said, rather large and everything. And so in order for her to drive, because she was kind of big, she had to scoot the chair back. And it was like, man, I can't really feel my legs. And I'm saying the thing to myself, and I mentioned to her, I says, yo, like, I can't really feel my legs, so can you scoot the seat up a little bit? Because, again, having cerebral palsy, and sometimes we get kind of, if we're in a little crouched space, as many of you know that, probably have cerebral palsy, you get kind of, your limbs get kind of numb and stuff. If you sit too long, you get a little tingle. It's the spasticity. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, my legs are going numb here, and I can't, and it's being compounded by the fact that they're getting smushed because I'm sitting behind her. And the only reason I was sitting behind her seat is because I told her I was tired and I needed to go, and she was like, "Well, you sit in the back, and I'll have." My other friend that was with me, Jatarian, and she's sitting in the front. She's like my other friend that had cerebral palsy. Her name is Jatarian. She's like a $110, 110 pounds. So she's this little itty bitty thing, and so she's sitting in the front seat. She's freezing to death because our friend that's driving, kept putting the air conditioner on like the highest thing possible, and it's blowing out, and so she's freezing. And then every time my friend that was driving got out the car, my other friend Jatarian would turn it off and be like, "Man, this is like getting cold in here. I wish she'd stop doing that." So she'd turn it off when she got out the car. Then when she'd get back in the car, my friend that was driving, she'd turn it back on and blast it. So she's freezing to death. I'm kind of losing sensation in my legs because she keeps scooting the chair back, and I'm like, dang, this is getting really, really painful and uncomfortable. I don't know why she doesn't get the hint here that both me and my other friend want to go home. But that just, I think, was just part of her not really being considerate about what was going on and not really showing concern because she had this assumption that maybe our time, I'm assuming, wasn't valuable. And so that's why, she had made the comment, well, I'll just take y'all home when I finish making my runs. And I was like, that's crazy. So me and my friend, unfortunately, had to suffer through that. And then by the time we actually got home, it was close to like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And so we had spent, I think that was on the third time that we did Uber. And so we had did 2 8-hour shifts the first time, and then a 6-hour shift this third time. And then finally, me and my other friend that has cerebral palsy, Jatarian, we were like, no, that's it. We tried to tell her in the car. She didn't really care. So then when she tried to call us again to do a fourth Uber Eats run, me and my friend, we were texting and talking to each other, when she had tried to text both of us. And then we're like, nah, we're not doing it because she's not really being considerate of our time and thinking, and showing that she understands that even though we're disabled, we still got things we got to do. And it doesn't involve around helping her with Uber Eats, especially since she doesn't want to show that she appreciates us and, shows that, she's thankful that we're helping her with her Uber Eats run. We're basically doing her job. The only thing she's doing is driving. We're giving her directions. We're handing the food. We're doing all this. She's driving and just getting the food from the restaurant. It's either me or my other friend handing it out. We're talking to the people. We're saying thank you for using Uber Eats. We're doing it. So, and she didn't see none of that. But my other friends, that drive, they're considered and they understand. So, but she didn't for some reason. So I don't know why that is. I just think it's just not really being considered about your people. Again, I just keep using that word because it just bothers me when some people don't really value other people's time. It's annoying. And I have another friend of mine that I know who's a fitness trainer, and she happens to be able-bodied too. So there's like 2 able-bodied people that I know that do the exact same thing, and it irritates the heck out of me why some able-bodied people, like I said, not all, but some, just don't see disabled people and their time as valuable, or don't see that, don't understand that they should be compensated for their time. And same as you would do anybody, whether like I said, disabled or not disabled. But we'll get on my other friend that's a fitness trainer and what she does too. But back to my friend that I was helping with Uber Eats. So when the fourth time came around to do it, me and my other friend that has cerebral palsy, we're definitely like, no. She doesn't seem to get it. She doesn't seem to appreciate us for basically helping her with Uber Eats, and we're like de facto babysitters, which is what my other friend pointed out. And I also noticed myself when we had stopped by her baby daddy's house, and her baby's dad also said, hey, I don't think it's cool that you're doing Uber Eats from like 12 until 3 o'clock in the morning because you got the baby, or the baby in the back seat, and it's dangerous to be doing that. And I overheard their conversation, my friend and her baby daddy, and I thought to myself, that makes sense. It's not really, safe for somebody with a kid to be out that late at night doing Uber Eats. I'm like, yeah, but then she had made the comment and told her baby daddy, I know that's kind of an old term, but her baby's father, to be more politically correct, and we're not speaking, ghetto fabulous here. She told her baby's father, "Oh, well, it's okay. I have Kingsley in the car, so he can watch her while I'm, hopping out to when she had to go in the store and get the food, or had to go up a flight of stairs, which is the only time she actually, was handing food to the customers, is when she had to go up a flight of stairs. Other than that, she never, the only time she left the vehicle again was to go get the food from the store and then put her butt back in the seat to drive. But if it was a house, I was handing the food to the customers. I was telling them thank you for using Uber Eats. So, hey, I'm doing probably the majority of her job, and by the way, telling her how to get from point A to point B, because her sense of direction was horrible. So, I'm just being a good friend again, trying to do what I do, thinking that this my able-bodied friend would reciprocate, which she did. So, but back to so we had a decision to make, me and my friend Jatarian. We're like, we don't want to go like a fourth time, because she's not showing that she understands it. She gets it. She doesn't get it. So we're like thinking, okay, we're not going to do it. But what I found kind of weird was she had texted me and says, "Hey, Kingsley, do you want to do Uber Eats?" And I was like, nah, I got stuff to do. Then she proceeded to tell me that my other friend that's disabled, like she was saying that she had texted her already, my other friend that was disabled, Chitarian, and she had already agreed to do Uber Eats, and she was going to do it. Which I found kind of funny, because I was already texting my other friend, and she told me absolutely under no circumstances was she going to do that, because she felt not appreciated like I did, and felt like she was getting taken advantage of by our able-bodied friend, because she just didn't value our time and didn't care. And so my friend that was disabled was telling me, "No, I'm not doing it, Kingsley." And she's like, "Are you doing it?" And I'm like, "Hell no." Because she ain't valuing my time. She don't care. So if she don't care, then she don't care, and she don't want to show appreciation. I'm not gonna let her eat up my time. She's not gonna be a time swallower and just devour my time and not show any appreciation. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing it. But my friend that's able-bodied, she thought it was cute, apparently, to start saying that, "Oh, well, I talked to so-and-so, she's doing it, she's already agreed." And I said, I'm wondering how you come to that conclusion, because I already talked to her, my friend Jatarian that's disabled, and she said, "Nope, she's not doing it, definitely not doing it." And then it was like back and forth, and then our friend in question was doing Uber Eats, but she's texting and claiming that they're trying to put me and my other friend that's disabled against each other, and trying to make it like a 2-against-1 scenario, which wasn't going to happen, because me and my friend Taryn, she's like my little ace, like my Ace Boon Coon here. We're like, she's my side buddy. She's basically another version of me, just a female version, because we both can get kind of raw, and we really don't give a shit. If we get, if you cross us, then we're just gonna have to we're just gonna have to tell you about yourself, and it ain't gonna be pretty when we tell you about yourself. You're gonna feeling stupid when we finish. So my friend Jatarian was like, "Okay, Kingsley, I ain't trying to get down in the weeds with Camilla here, our able-bodied friend, because she's like," my friend Jatarian's like, "I don't really know her like that, so I ain't trying to have to tell her about herself." And then Jatarian, I call her Jay, she's like, "Nah, Kingsley, go ahead and tell her." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm texting her, and I said, "Okay." I said "we," and I used the term "we" for me and my friend Jatarian, we're not doing it because we got other things to do. And then my friend, able-bodied friend, don't want to use her name, she was like, well, no, such and such already agreed, so we're doing it, Kingsley, so it's on you. And I was like, no, you're really not. And then it spiraled into all this crap. And then our able-bodied friend was like, so why do you keep saying we? And I said we because both me and her, my other disabled friend, don't want to do it because you don't care about our time and you're inconsiderate and you don't, you don't want to show that you appreciate us. And then our able-bodied friend says, well, oh, so you're talking about me behind my back? That's really messed up, Kingsley. That hurts. And I'm like, okay, so she's going into like, drama mode now, trying to be all dramatized and say we talking about her back, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. And I'm like, nah, we're really not. Me and my other friend, because if we're gonna talk about you, we're gonna talk about you to your face. And we'll just tell you, I don't do none of that. That's high school crap, people. So, talking behind your back and snap, nah. I'll talk to your face and I'll tell you. So me and my friend Jatarian were like, no. We said, wait, it ain't gonna be this stuff talking behind your back. We talking to your face right now. So I said, okay, hold up. So me and my friend Jatarian said, no, we're gonna call her. So we called her on three-way and we told her, we was like, look, our able-bodied friend, we said, so basically we've been doing Uber Eats like 3 times now. We've basically done 2 8-hour shifts and then a 6-hour shift with you. Haven't really gotten paid, and we weren't really looking for her money. We just want to know that she appreciated us and she gonna look out for her people and just offer us something off the dollar menu. Again, people, dollar menu. That's not gonna break her back. Now I know Uber Eats doesn't make that much, but dang, dollar menu. So she couldn't do that. And I'm just emphasizing that because, again, dollar menu is like the cheapest stuff you can get. There's no excuse. The only reason you wouldn't show appreciation to your friend and buy them something off the dollar menu is because you want to be insanely cheap, or you just want to be, excuse my French, you want to be an asshole. Excuse the French. So, I don't know. But she definitely wasn't going to get me or my friend Jatarian anything off the dollar menu. Or we even came up with a suggestion, which I thought was kind of cool. Why don't you go to the 99-cent store, get some chips and, like a thing of Gatorade, get a cooler. Me and my friend would go in on the cooler, purchase the cooler, and it would be a collaborative effort. All 3 of us go in, get a cooler, get some snacks, throw it in that thing, and throw the cooler in the back of her trunk. So then we're riding around, because it's summertime, people. I'm in Texas. Texas is hot. It's ridiculously hot. It's crazy. You come outside, it's like the heat'll, the heat'll just get you. It's dry heat. The sun's just glaring at you. So you're going to need some snacks and drinks, especially drinks so you don't pass out. So we thought of that idea. We're like, yeah, let's go ahead and get a cooler, put it in there. And she's like, nah, I ain't got no money. We're like, oh, okay. So you can't do anything off the dollar menu. You don't like the cooler suggestion. And we said, don't you get assistance? And when I mean assistance, I mean like food stamps. You get food stamps, right? And, that's government handout. I'm like, okay, you get food stamps. So why don't you, use a little bit of your food stamps, purchase this food, and then we put it in the cooler and throw that thing in the back of your trunk, and then that's what we do. Whoop-de-whoop. But she was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Now, and she just continued to was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And so when we're telling her, and then I had made a joke. I says, well, you don't want to do none of that. If you don't want to do none of that and get us any kind of snacks or anything, originally I said, okay, I jokingly said, off the suggestion of one of my friends, which, that kind of joke fell horribly flat because my able-bodied friend, I guess, had no sense of humor. And I see why probably her and her baby daddy don't get along. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to need 10% of what you get from Uber since I'm doing half of your work. And I thought she was going to be like, she was like, oh my gosh, she's like, you're tripping. And then da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, okay, if you're not going to do the 10% thing, then let's do the snacks or whatever. And she's like, no. So when me and my other friend, back to when we had called her on three-way, so it was me, my friend Jatarian that has cerebral palsy, and my able-bodied friend that, was driving, doing Uber Eats, that were basically doing her job for her and, making her money. We're basically telling her, like, yo, we ain't gonna do that no more unless you show appreciation to your people because we're helping you. And she's like, no, y'all shouldn't be asking for anything. Y'all shouldn't be asking me to buy you anything off the dollar menu. I shouldn't have to make no snacks for you. I shouldn't have to get no drinks for you. Y'all should just be happy that y'all are riding around with me in my car. Now again, I'm just gonna repeat that again. She said we should be happy that we are riding around with her in her car. I don't understand what that meant, people. Like, does that mean we should be grateful because she has a car and we at the moment don't? We should just be happy to be in her presence? I'm sorry, but that's a negative. Nah, forget that. I don't depend on people and their vehicles to get from point A to point B. I'll jump on the fixed route. Public transportation, I'll take an Uber, I'll take a Lyft. Yeah, shoot, I'll take a ride from a damn stranger any time of the week before on anybody to, like, get me where I gotta go. That's just a negative. So that kind of, you should be happy that, riding around in a car, I thought was utter nonsense. And so tell me, people, I don't know if any of my people in the disabled community have gotten that kind of thing, but I thought that was utter crap. And that was just utterly insensitive and stupidity in the 110%. That was just dumb. That's dumb shit. And so she lost 2 points for that because I thought that was just stupid. I actually thought she was smarter than that, but I guess I underestimated her saying such a stupid kind of thing. So long story short, we told her, and then my friend Jatarian was like, okay, and then my friend Jatarian was funny. She said, okay, our able-bodied friend, she says, now, did I not tell you that if you're doing Uber Eats, you need to have a schedule, right? You don't just it's not going to be like no 8-hour thing and you ain't got no direction and we're just going to be there for 8 hours, which we had already done two times before. She's like, you need to have a schedule so that way, if you want people to help you, we know the days that you're going to do the 12 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning, then you can plan accordingly and compensate your people that are helping you, basically helping you with your runs and being de facto babysitters. And she was like, everybody friend was like, oh yeah, I understand, I'll do that. But, she didn't do it apparently because she hadn't had the schedule. And so we're telling her, and we're like, then we're giving her all these suggestions to make this Uber Eats experience that we're basically helping her with because she didn't know what she was doing, a little bit more enjoyable for me and my other friend Jatarian because we ain't getting paid, we ain't getting no drinks, we ain't getting no food, we ain't getting nothing. We sitting there trying to, again, help her with her direction, get around. No conversation is going on. I mean, it's just horrible. It's like helping, a challenge, somebody that's, mentally challenged to get around, which I'd rather do that than, doing what we were doing with her because she was horribly, just didn't know what she was doing. So we're giving her all these suggestions. Me and my friend Jatarian, we're calm, cool, and collected because that's what we do. We try to break it down for her, tell her and explain to her that, the way she's doing us is like whack. That's not how you treat your people. You look out for your people, make sure they're good. You either get them, you get them some off the dollar menu, or you just bring snacks and be like, hey, here you go. Here's some water, here's some snacks, you good, let's roll. But, she seemed to not understand that. And my friend Jatarian was like, I don't understand. And now, get this. My friend Jatarian is like, she's 24 years old. The person that we're talking about is almost 10 years older than her. And my friend Jatarian had said the funniest thing ever. Why do I have to explain to a 33-year-old able-bodied person how she should act? And I said, I don't know. That's a good question, Jatarian, because I don't know either. I don't know why this is new. So we're explaining to our able-bodied friend, why don't you understand the simple concept? It's like, hey, we're helping you. Just be a good friend. Make sure that we're good. But we're thinking she's gonna be like, okay, I understand. No worries. I'll do better. But no. Guess what happened? It went off the rails. Our able-bodied friend began to scream and yell, "Oh my gosh! I can't believe y'all are doing this to me! Oh my gosh! I got so many bills to pay. I got a daughter. I got this. My baby daddy hasn't helped me in 6 months. He hasn't done anything. Whoop-de-whoop-de-woo." And she began to scream and yell and at the top of her lungs. And me and my friend Jatarian are like, "Oh hell no, we ain't about to do that." So my friend Jatarian hung up, and then I'm like, able-bodied friend, I'm like, "What's the deal? Why are you crying and acting like you're damn?" I'm not even gonna say like acting like a 5-year-old. Because I know 5-year-olds that are better than that. So that's an insult to 5-year-olds. I'm just going to say I didn't understand why she was crying like that and getting all hysterical. That was just dumb. And so I was like, this is unacceptable. And so she just kept crying. My other friend Jatarian hung up. Then my other friend texted me and said, "I'm not hanging out with her no more." And I'm like, yeah, Camilla, like, I don't understand what the problem is, but you just did us kind of bogus. And when we said we wanted to go home after the barbecue thing, you basically held us hostage and told us we were not going to go home, which is kind of crappy. If you call yourself a friend, and that's why I say some able-bodied people, not all, but some, when they're friends with somebody that has a disability, I don't know, they may not understand it, or they may again take for granted the fact that even though that individual is disabled, they still got their life to live, and they got their things they got to do, in regardless if they're if they drove themselves there or you had to go pick them up. At least show consideration to them, and just look out for them, make sure that they're good. So she was screaming and blah blah blah, whoop de whoop de whoop. So after all that little tirade was done, I just told her, yeah, it was just not cool. And then a few days later, I had texted her trying to see if we could resolve the situation. But nah, she still wanted to stick to her guns. And then she kept telling me, no, what she did was absolutely right. And then she says, tell me if y'all have gotten this. Someone says they're sorry, but they're not really sorry. She's like, and she said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't feel I did anything wrong. Is that an apology, people? This is the question. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't, I'm sorry you feel that way really means, like, F you, I don't care, so just deal with it. So that's like a pretty crappy way to tell someone that you're sorry. When you say sorry, you feel that way. So that's what she proceeded to tell me. Then she says, well, you and Jatarian were complaining. Y'all just want to complain. Y'all want to take advantage of me and try to be greedy and take all my money. Now again, my audience here, the disabled population. So who's taking advantage of who here? As you being disabled, we're in her car, so she don't want to take us home. Me and my friend both got cerebral palsy, so we're held hostage in her car. Who's taking advantage of whom? We can't go home, but we're de facto babysitters, and we're helping her with her Uber Eats run. So I didn't get her little blurb there, and so she says, well, yeah, this and that, and so if you didn't want to go, you should have just told me you didn't want to go, and that would be that. But I'm telling her, we're telling her, as after the barbecue, we're done and we want to go home, but you said we're not going home. So we did tell you, you just didn't care. So, and I was like, man, that's crazy. So I'm trying to work it out with her, and she's just proceeding to just throw it back in my face and make it like it's my problem. And it was just really kind of disheartening, and just to know that somebody that you had claimed and thought was your friend and thought knew the situation really didn't, or just faked it really well. So apparently she faked it really well and just put on this facade and pretended like she was cool, but she really wasn't. So that kind of bothered me. So I'm trying to be the peacemaker and work it out. My other friend Jatana is like, hell no, I ain't hanging out with her said person ever again, because you don't want to have to don't want to hear her scream and yell like she done lost her dang mind. So she's like, I ain't dealing with it. I tried to fix it, tried to smooth it over. She wasn't really understanding, and then she just saying that I wanted to complain, and then she was saying the thing that got me too. This is just a side note. When she was saying like she had no money, she was telling us, I have no money. I gotta pay for I got a daughter. Now, she's a mother by choice. I'm not like blaming the kid, but she's using the kid as a crutch. Some people, I'll put it like this. There are some individuals that, by their own, they become parents through, very horrible circumstances, rape or incest. But the 99% of the time, when someone becomes a parent, that's because they made the choice to become a parent. Or, in other cases, teen moms, which they just didn't understand what they're doing. But again, said person is 33 years old. So she made the choice to have her daughter, which is great, which is fine. Whoopsie whoopsie woo. But don't use that as an excuse and say, I'm a parent and I got a daughter to raise. You chose to have your daughter. Ain't nobody do that to you. You did it to yourself. It's all good. So that's your baby. You had the baby. She's a blessing. But don't use her as a crutch and try to throw it in other people's face. That's just really just not good. Not a good look. And by the way, people, again, I have cerebral palsy, and I have 5 kids. But I've never once said, oh, I got 5 kids, and da-da-da-da-da. I don't make excuses. I just go ahead and get my butt up and, the old cliche, just pick myself up by my bootstraps or whatever, and I just go to work. So I go to work, or I find my hustle and I just make money. I don't come up with excuses. I just do it. So this person, again, as a side note, was saying that she didn't have any money, all this stuff. But she had just came back from Disney World, people. She went to Disney World, spent goo gobs of money, like, $400 to get into Disney World? And then she had, like, her hotel stay, I think she got, like, some kind of discount on it. But she spent $400 to get into Disney World, people. And then before that, she had went on a cruise and spent, like, $1,000. So, a cruise and Disney World, are those necessity? That's the question. So, if you go on a $1,000 cruise, and then you go to Disney World and spend $400, that's just price of admission. Doesn't even include food. I'm sorry, but I don't really feel bad for you. And I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, woe is me. Oh, that person has a daughter and they can't afford anything. You're spending money on Disney World and a cruise. Those are luxury, not necessity. So I didn't feel sorry for her at all. So that's just that. I'm saying if I'm really tight for money, then I'm not going to Disney World, and I sure as hell am not going on a cruise, because you're just spending money where you don't need to spend. Now, I mean, if she wants to go and spend it, that's her choice. But don't throw it in somebody's face and say, well, I don't got no money. I can't afford anything. It's just me and my daughter. That kind of rings shallow, because you're just giving your money away. But when it comes time to be a good person, a good human being, and look after your people, you use that as an excuse, especially because the people that you're talking about, they're disabled, and you just think that their time is not valuable. Just my opinion. I just think it's kind of really crappy. So that was that, and I'm just, again, my question is, like, what do you think? It's just an open question to the audience. How do you think Has that ever happened to you? Like a person that you thought understood, an able-bodied individual that you thought understood your situation, uh, appeared to like really not. So and then they just sort of took advantage of your time because they just think you don't have nothing to do. So yeah, let me know about that one. Now, another one I want to talk about is sort of along the same line, and then we'll get into our topic of mobility and as far as like mobility and the phases of mobility, which will be the second topic here in a minute. But my other friend I wanted to talk about, which again is in the same line, she's a fitness trainer. She's a personal fitness trainer. Okay, she's able-bodied too. Now the thing she's kind of cool because a lot of I'll say a lot of fitness trainers don't really know how to help people with disabilities like work out and maintain their movement. Which if you have cerebral palsy or any kind of disability, mobility disability or whatever, you need, especially with cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, you need to have you need to do some sort of exercise to keep yourself limper and be able to move around and just keep yourself flexible. So my friend that's a trainer, she actually is deals with people that has disabilities like myself. I've known her for quite a while, and one of my other friends, Christian, knows her really well as well. And so she is a fitness trainer. She is willing to train people with disabilities, which I think is kind of cool. But she was another one, which I call is someone that drains your time when dealing with disabled people and doesn't really seem to get like the other person I was talking about. I was talking about Uber Eats. The one that's a fitness trainer, she doesn't really seem to get it either because she has no real concept of time, and she will say, "Okay, I'll be at your location at such and such a time," and then when that time arrives, like let's say she'll say, "Okay, I'll be at your house at 10 o'clock in the morning." So when you're waiting, and if you're a person with a disability, you sort of have to schedule your time to sort of incorporate that person and make sure that they just you're sort of waiting for that person to get there, and so you're you have to plan out your day for her. So she's a fitness trainer. So for one of my friends, I just use this example. He has cerebral palsy as well, and he had asked me if my he had asked me if my physical trainer wouldn't be willing to help him clean his location. Physical fitness trainer, I asked her if she wanted to make some extra money just by helping my friend clean his apartment, and she had agreed and said yeah, and she said sure. So she had they would agree like about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning to come through and clean his place. For the first couple of weeks, she did okay, but then after that, things just sort of derailed, and she couldn't keep time. Wasn't sure, it was just one thing after another, and then when she did show up after those first initial 2 weeks, it was always 2 to 3 hours late. And then when you would question her about it, like what happened, she's like, "Oh, I had another client or this or that." She had like a able-bodied client she had to get to, and but my friend that's disabled, he was like, but Kendra, our time was scheduled at 10 o'clock, so I was before your other client. If you weren't gonna make it, or if you were having issues, why didn't you just call me? And she's like, I'm sorry, it didn't come to mind. And so she had like started doing after that first initial 2 weeks. Sorry, she started like just doing that consistently, where she would just miss the scheduled time. or show up, miss the scheduled time, show up 2-3 hours late, and then always had an excuse like, oh, I had to get to this other client. The other client did this or did that, blah, 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 and it just sort of ran over. And then when you sort of would question her, Kendra, the fitness trainer, about, hey, we had this time scheduled. I had marked off this time for you, and I'm paying you money because of my physical condition. He has cerebral palsy. He was needing her to help him with his laundry, do his dishes, keep his apartment clean. She would, after the first initial 2 weeks, would keep consistently missing the time, and then instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry I missed the time," this and that, she would say, "Oh, well, I had other clients that were kind of more important," or she just was like, or sometimes wouldn't even give an excuse, would just say, "Oh, sorry, I'm running late." And then she would just keep, continue to do that, not really see the time as valuable, and then, or, just keep showing up super, super late, and didn't really understand that time was valuable. And then she kept doing that. Then, after a while, when it just became a habit and she kept coming later and later and later, she would then make up an excuse and say, well, because I had to come here and help you, clean up your apartment and do dishes and all this. Again, she had agreed, knowing that my friend was disabled and needed the assistance, and she agreed to it. She would say, well, I lost a client because of you, because I had to come and help you clean your place. So then it became, she had, was making it seem as if helping my friend that has cerebral palsy was a burden to her, and it was just taking up her time. But in actuality, she's getting paid to assist him and do his laundry and do his dishes. He's paying her quite well. So it's a steady, it's a steady thing, steady stream of income that she's making, and it's a very simple task. Do his laundry, just clean up his place a bit, and be good. Because she was scheduled to come at least once or twice a week, and she was getting upwards of, I think, what was it, $25 to $30 an hour, sometimes $40, I think. So it's pretty good money coming in just for, and that was each time that she came. So if she comes twice a week, 40 times 2, that's $80, just cleaning his place for just a couple hours. So, but she didn't seem to appreciate the fact that, he was disabled and paying her. He just took advantage of her time, didn't really understand that his time was valuable, and he was setting aside time for her to come and clean his place. She would just make excuses, oh, your time, I lost a client, I had to come here and do that. And then she, at one time, she had said something about she felt he would. Well, she had said this in a situation with me, actually, because then she was this is just a side note, she was actually my personal trainer at one point, and then when I was needing her to, she was training me, and she had asked if she could train me. I didn't really ask her to be my personal trainer. She just asked, and I was like, okay. And she was missing the personal training appointments, and then when I got kind of upset with her, she was like, oh, well, I have other clients and use that same similar line. And then she says, and she says, in addition to that, I feel like I'm your caretaker. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm paying you to train me. You agreed, so how are you my caretaker by training me? And so she was just saying that, meeting me at the gym, and then sometimes she would offer to take me home because my ride, I use the public transportation or I use the handy ride, transit. I would miss it because she would be so horribly late to my personal training appointments that I'm on a schedule with the transportation, and I would miss my handy ride, as we call it, because she was so late. With my other friend that I talked about, the one that he was getting his house clean, there was he didn't miss a ride or anything. His time was getting swallowed up because she couldn't keep time properly. Again, I don't know if that's because some able-bodied people again don't value disabled individuals and their time, just like I said about my friend that does the Uber Eats. So not valuing our time as disabled individuals or those able-bodied individuals not seeing our time as valuable. I don't know why that is. And again, I'm not saying everyone, but there are just some people. Just from my personal experience, I'm just going off the top of my head here because they kind of irritated me, and I don't know if other people are having that same issue going on, but it bothered me, and I just wanted to get that off my chest there. Those two instances. Now, moving on to our second topic, and like I said, this discussion for the Moses Disability Roundtable, or this one, this topic is going to be the mobility. And again, like I said, sometimes, just to reiterate, it'll be either a roundtable or it'll be, me where I just feel that I have to get some things off my chest. So sometimes it'll just be me going over things that happen and talking about getting y'all's opinion. So, things always change here on the Disability Roundtable. So that's, I think, makes it interesting. So you never know what you're going to get. But my second topic here that I'm going to discuss is mobility and how the changes in mobility, how that's happened sort of over the, for me, over the years, and how that different equipment that people with disabilities use sort of morphs and changes, and how we sort of have to adapt to our environment. Now, I know people with, disabilities, mobility disabilities like cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, how we have, wheelchairs, crutches, scooters, and getting around. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about the evolution that is, being disabled, and how it's kind of, as the disability, sort of evolves, and you sort of learn your body and how you move around, how things change. So I was just going to do just a little blurb on that. It just came to mind, so I'm just going to talk about it. So when I was growing up, back when I was a little shorty, I remember I had started off with a wheelchair. I had a wheelchair, and I was wearing other assistive devices to sort of help correct, my legs and make it so easier for me to get around. And so I had AFOs, which were braces to straighten my legs. I was in the wheelchair, and because I had cerebral palsy, they were people, the teachers, especially, and my parents were afraid that if I stood up, I would lose my balance and crack my head open. So I was in the wheelchair with the braces and the helmet on my head. And so I was in the wheelchair for about 3-4 years. Then after that, I evolved from that to walking on a K-walker, which is basically just a walker that wraps around you, and we have a seat on it. And then I was walking with that. And with these changes, using a wheelchair, I'll just give an example. It's kind of hard to maneuver sometimes. Let's say if you're rolling down the street or something and you're on a sidewalk, you're in a wheelchair, it's kind of, you got to make sure that the area of the sidewalk that you're rolling down is kind of even plane. There's no big cracks in the sidewalk. There's no dips. There's none of that, because you don't want to flip over and fall out your wheelchair. So you're just kind of maneuvering around in areas like that when you're in a wheelchair like that. And then when I had transitioned to a walker, or they call it K-walker, the other obstacle I had with that was with the K-walker, they were kind of big and bulky. So if I was in PE, for example, and I was trying to go around the track, I had to be mindful of not going super duper fast, because with the K-walkers, those things are hard to sort of turn and maneuver very well, because they're just kind of rigid. So you had to be careful, and especially with the way I would use my mobility equipment, I tended to be a little bit a little bit kind of rough. So my K walkers, the wheels would get kind of loose, and then one instance, actually, one of my wheels popped off while I was using the walker, and then it's like boom, it just popped off, and the whole K walker just fell over, and I went tumbling with the walker. So that was kind of crazy. So I had to be mindful about not really putting too much pressure on my K walker because the wheels, the way I would go wouldn't be able to keep up with me. So it was from the wheelchair, the walker, and then I used a cane for some period of time. But then I felt that the cane, I had just like a one thing cane. I didn't have the 4-prong cane because I just thought that was just like old school, and I didn't want to do the old school 4-prong cane. So I had just one cane that I would use, and that was when I started getting into my teenage years. And mobility with using a cane was also kind of hard, having a disability, because when I'd be walking, I had to kind of be careful too, because with the cane, it doesn't really give you that all around stability, because you have stability on one side of your body. So I would use the cane in my right hand, so that would keep me stable on that side. But the left side, I had to be careful, because when I walk with a limp, and that's with. So when I say that, I know it's kind of, people might not understand that. What I mean when I say I walk with a limp is I have a gait. So you see me, and it looks like, oh yeah, you got a little gangster walk with him. So when I was walking, I have the cane in my right hand, and then I would sort of walk, and then you see a little lean to the left, and so if I kind of lost my balance, then the cane being on my right side didn't really help me. That means I would probably I would go tumbling to the left and didn't have any support. So, like I said, so when I went from the wheelchair, the walker, to the cane, and then, I forgot here, don't want to forget this one. I also had a scooter at one point. That's when I got into like my mid-20s, because I worked at this place called Army Air Force Exchange in the hood in like South Dallas. So they had me working there, and the complex was rather big, so I would use the scooters to sort of get around, and the scooter was cool. Oftentimes I like using the scooter when I worked at Army Air Force Exchange, and I also used it when I was in community college. I'd be rolling around that mug, I'd be gone, hop on my scooter, and I would just take off. Now, the scooter, the issue with that, having a disability and using that kind of mobility equipment, you had to, again, it was like a need for speed for me. So I was like a little daredevil. When I got on my scooter, I was gone. Boy, I just take off and I'm like, yeah. And so I had to be careful, because sometimes I would, get really super duper happy, and I'd crash into walls. Matter of fact, I think one time I crashed into, I think, what did I crash into? I just crashed in. I was in the main building, and I was trying to turn. I was upstairs, and I just hit the wall, and it was like, crack! And because I had turned, and I thought I heard someone calling my name, and I didn't turn, and I turned my head, but didn't turn the wheel. Boom! I hit that wall going like 5 miles an hour. And boy, I put a dent in that wall so dang big, you could hear the shake in that building, boy. And then I remember my friend Laura that was downstairs, she says, "Hey Kingsley, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." I just yelled out, "I'm okay." And there's a big old dent in the side of the wall, because I hit that sucker so dang hard. Oh man, that was crazy. But yeah, that was moving around with a scooter. You really having a disability, you have to be able to maneuver in that as well. So going from my evolution from, like I said, let's recap, from the wheelchair to the walker to the cane to the scooter, and then finally now I'm on crutches. So I use these lobster crutches now to get around. And the issue that I'm having with that, and again, people, I definitely want to get your get your feedback on that. Let me know how do y'all have issues with your mobility equipment? How is it for you to get around? Did you find that you had to sort of adapt the way you move with your mobility equipment? Is it harder for you? Is it easier for you? Just definitely like to get your opinion on that. So back to back to my crutches. So when I started using these crutches, that was I think I've been using it for about 15 years now. And using crutches, that's been kind of a little interesting adventure, because as I've been using them, I've noticed that my upper body has gotten like super duper like stronger, because you have to use a lot of force moving around, so my upper body's gotten really strong. And then but I put a lot of pressure on these crutches, so the tips of them wear out extremely fast, and then also the cuffs of these crutches tend to wear out extremely fast too. And then so it's kind of hard for me now using these crutches, because I can't really find crutches or the tips that'll stick with me, because I tend to wear them out extremely fast, and then it's like, damn, I just, it's hard to find decent tips, because like I said, when I go to the medical supply store and I get tips, those don't really last that long, because I wear them out. So this is just a little shout out. If any of you there in the disability community know where I can get these, there are tips called tornado tips, and these were these gigantic size tips. They used to be made by Sunrise Medical, but I think Sunrise Medical no longer manufactures them. So, that's not an avenue for me anymore. So this is just a question. If any of my people in the disabled community there know where I can get gigantic size tips, and that'll help me to be able to keep moving around and doing what I'm doing, you can go ahead and shoot me something on my Twitter page, drop me a line on my email, let me know. That'll be great. So, but back to that. So moving around on crutches, like I said, that's been an adventure, because I'm a pretty fast son of a gun moving around on that. And that's the obstacles that I've had to overcome with that, is with these tips. I got to be careful going on slick surfaces, because if I ain't watching, me and them crutches, we gonna slipping and sliding, boy. We gonna sliding and boom, I hit that ground so hard. And if you don't know how to fall right, people, then it can hurt. And I'm sure some of you that if you don't know how to fall right, you know what I'm talking about. That's when you hit that ground, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt, and it's gonna hurt bad. So you gotta figure that out. So in my evolution, I have not only learned how to maneuver with all these mobility equipment, but I've also learned how to fall properly, so I don't injure myself. But so right now I am on my crutches, so that's where I am, and I'm praying that after this is the final phase of my mobility journey, that the next thing that I will be using to maneuver around will be absolutely nothing. I'll just be walking and just doing what I do without any assistance whatsoever. So I'm hoping that'll materialize, and so I'm working towards that, and that's my goal. But that's about it. I figured it was going to last about an hour. My topics here, and again, this was just basically this is just a show. I had some things I wanted to get off my chest. So a little different this go around. I just, it was just me and my audience, and just wanted to voice my opinion about some things. And that's usually so. It's going to be like that from time to time. Sometimes I'll have my panel with me, and sometimes it'll just be me and you, audience, and we'll just be, I'll just bring up a topic and tell you my opinions on it, and then hopefully get your feedback. So that's it for this week's show of the Disability Roundtable, Disability Topics. I hope you enjoyed this show, and you can definitely hit me up on my Twitter page.